Mindset makes you abandon what makes your journey unique. That business you build slowly with ethical practices can't compete with the viral stuff cutting corners. So you question your value. Your meaningful but modest art gets overshadowed by flashy, algorithm-friendly content. So you consider abandoning your authentic voice. Comparison doesn't just make you feel inadequate, it pressures you to betray your own standards in pursuit of someone else's definition of success. Even more tragic is how this robs you of presence. While obsessing over where you should be, you miss the poetry of where you are. The late night laughter with colleagues during a tough project. The quiet pride in your first garden harvest. The unglamorous but profound moments that actually compose a life. Future you will look back not at the trophies you didn't win, but at the ordinary miracles you failed to notice because you were too busy measuring. This scarcity mindset spreads like ink in water, coloring everything it touches. Your friend's good news becomes a personal indictment rather than cause for celebration. Your partner's race triggers insecurity instead of shared joy. Every external success starts feeling like a referendum on your own inadequacy, turning potential allies into unwitting competitors in a game nobody signed up to play.
Toblerone truffles, velvety diamond-shaped chocolate with a crunchy nougat filling. You don't need words to know what your little one needs. Comfort, joy, love. Experience a daily drop of Lactacid Baby Wash, powered by Lactobiome Plus. It helps maintain your baby's natural pH while nourishing and moisturizing their skin. So you can feel confident and they can feel like this. Lactacid. Skin speaks, we listen.
Signed up to play. Breaking this cycle requires conscious rebellion. A refusal to let comparison be the lens through which you view your life. It means catching yourself in the act of self-diminishment and deliberately shifting focus to your tangible progress. That promotion wasn't just a team leader position. It was you overcoming the imposter syndrome that haunted you 3 years ago. That small creative project wasn't merely a local exhibition. It was you finally silencing the inner critic that said you weren't a real artist. The antidote isn't false positivity, but fierce confidence. When you find yourself minimizing an achievement, ask, would I say this to my childhood self who dreamed of this moment? That wide-eyed version of you didn't fantasize about corner offices or viral fame. They yearn for the essence of what you've actually created. The tragedy isn't failing to reach impossible standards, but failing to recognize how far you've already come. Because here's what nobody tells you. The people you compare yourself to are likely trapped in the same cycle, measuring themselves against yet another imaginary standard. The CEO envies the digital nomad's freedom. The influencer covets the academic's depth. The stay-at-home parent romanticizes the child-free friend's independence. Everyone is simultaneously someone else's goal and someone else's cautionary tale. In an endless, exhausting loop, true freedom comes when you realize, not intellectually, but viscerally, that life isn't a race with fixed milestones, but an idiosyncratic dance where the only score that matters is how authentically you move to your own rhythm. Your version of success doesn't need justification or comparison. It simply needs your full, unfiltered presence and the courage to call it enough. The question hangs in the air like a thick fog, choking your ability to breathe freely. When will I be enough? You stare at your reflection, not really seeing yourself, but rather the distorted version pieced together from 1,000 comparisons. The mirror becomes a cruel courtroom where you stand perpetual trial with an invisible jury of peers, predecessors, and perfect strangers serving as both witnesses and executioners. This moment of reckoning doesn't arrive with fanfare. It creeps in during quiet hours, when you're alone with your thoughts after a long day, or when someone pays you a genuine compliment that you reflexively deflect. The reflection staring back holds evidence of every perceived shortcoming, the laugh lines that others might call aging gracefully, but you see as proof you're falling behind. The eyes that once sparkled with ambition, now dulled by exhaustion from chasing standards that keep moving. We've been conditioned to treat self-worth like a fluctuating stock price, valuable only when trending upward relative to others. Your college
Balot na
roommate buys a vacation home, your stock dips. Your former intern gets featured in Forbes, another plunge. The algorithm of your psyche has been hijacked, programmed to scan for threats not to your survival, but to your ego. And like any good algorithm, it finds exactly what it's looking for. Endless proof that you're lacking. But mirrors have a secret. They only show surfaces. They can't reflect the sleepless nights you spent comforting a grieving friend, or the courage it took to walk away from what wasn't serving you, or the quiet revolutions happening in your heart as you unlearn generations of inherited inadequacy. That time you didn't get the job but handled rejection with grace, invisible. The way you've learned to set boundaries where previous versions of yourself would have people pleased, nowhere in the glass. The most dangerous lie the mirror tells is that you're seeing reality, when in truth, you're viewing yourself through warped glass. Glass that magnifies flaws and minimizes growth. Glass that shows you your worst angles in the harshest light. You scrutinize pores no one notices, while overlooking the strength in your shoulders that has carried burden you once thought would break you. This mere moment demands a fundamental rewiring, not of your circumstances, but of your gaze. What if, instead of searching for defects, you looked for evidence of survival? That scar represents the wisdom earned through healing. Those tired eyes reflect sunrises met with determination. The softening body, story of enjoying meals with loved ones instead of starving for approval. The revolution begins when you challenge the reflection's authority. Who decided this narrow definition of enough? Was it the fashion magazines that profit from your insecurity? The LinkedIn influencers selling productivity porn? The relatives who measure worth by marital status and mortgage sizes? You've been holding yourself accountable to standards you never consciously chose, punishing yourself for failing a test nobody credible wrote. There is a version of you lives beneath the surface. One that doesn't care about highlight reels or hierarchical ladders. This version knows your value isn't cumulative or comparative, but intrinsic and immutable. It remembers the childhood dreams you abandoned because they didn't seem prestigious enough.
Galing magbalot. Hindi mo mahanap yung pinagsasaluhan.
Like magic. Get ready with Maggie.
Just the talents you downplayed because they wouldn't look impressive on paper, the joy you've sacrificed at the altar of someone else's definition of success. The mirror can't show your impact, how your encouragement lifted someone during their darkest hour, how your work ethic inspired a junior colleague, how your laughter brightens rooms in ways metrics can't measure. These intangible currencies of the soul never appear in reflection, yet they constitute your real legacy. Breaking the mirror spell requires standing before it and declaring against all conditioning that you are already what you've been seeking. Not eventually, not when you reach some arbitrary milestone. Now, with your imperfect body, your complicated history, your messy progress, the moment you stop asking when you'll be enough and start you already are, the reflection transforms no longer an indictment, but a testament to resilience. Because here's the secret the mirror won't tell you. The people you compare yourself to have their own hidden struggles, their own moments of staring at reflections and feeling deficient. The CEO wonders if they're present enough as a parent. The artist questions if their work is meaningful.
Titinda
The
ako mga
influencer feels hollow behind
Nakasalang ako sa
curated
Shopee.
perfection. The race to enough has no finish line because it's built on illusion. The collective agreement to pretend we're running towards something instead of acknowledging we're already here.
Ito mo
When
na.
you finally stop
Basket number
interrogating your
37 natin,
reflection
mga
and start
bito yan.
honoring it, something miraculous happens. The features you once
37 mga B,
become
habayanas
markers of
natin.
your
Ano
unique
na lang
journey.
to?
The laugh lines map
Limited,
years of joy.
limited
The
size.
scars
Tapos,
tell survival story.
ang
The
naka-sale dyan
eyes
na
regain their
600,
spark because they're no longer
39, 40.
searching for validation,
Eto yan
but
mga B.
recognizing their
OG
own
yan
worth.
na, OG.
The mirror
Habayanas
becomes
official
just
store
glass
talaga
again.
yan mga B.
Neutral,
Nagtitinda
powerless, as you reclaim authority over your own narrative. The moment you stop measuring your life against external benchmarks is the moment you discover a radical new currency of self-worth. This shift isn't about lowering standards, it's about changing the entire economic system of your psyche from one of scarcity to abundance. Instead of asking, how do I stack up? You begin asking, what am I becoming? The transformation starts with simple but seismic questions that reroute your neural pathways from comparison to creation. What if you traded the exhausting calculus of likes and promotions for a more intimate metric? How alive you feel when doing the work. The artist who stops chasing trends and starts following their peculiar fascinations often creates work that resonates more deeply precisely because it's unconcerned with competition. The entrepreneur who builds based on personal conviction rather than market noise frequently discovers underserved niches. There's an alchemy that happens when you stop creating for an imagined audience of critics and start creating for your most authentic self. The work becomes imbued with an unmistakable energy that no amount of benchmarking can replicate. Gratitude becomes your secret weapon in this internal revolution, not the performative, social gratitude, but the visceral kind that catches in your throat when you realize how far you've come. That spreadsheet you mastered despite math anxiety, a victory. The difficult conversation you initiated instead of avoiding, growth. The morning you woke up and chose kindness toward yourself, revolution. These uncelebrated wins form the bedrock of genuine confidence. The kind that doesn't waver when others succeed because it's rooted in your private evolution rather than public validation. This mindset shift reveals the fundamental flaw in comparison. It forces linear measurement onto a multidimensional life.
Mas
How
maganda
do you
talaga to yung
quantify the
binibenta
value
ko,
of
malalaki.
hard-won emotional intelligence against someone else's technical skills? What's the exchange rate between your quiet contentment and their noisy achievements? The spreadsheet breaks because you're comparing incomparables, unique constellations of experiences that can never be fairly juxtaposed. Your late bloom might be gathering depth that early success often lacks. Your detours may have built resilience that straight paths rarely require. The practice of measuring your present against your own past rather than others' presence reveals startling truths. That thing you can do effortlessly now that would have terrified you 3 years ago, that's the real success story. The boundaries you've established, the self-talk you've softened, the joy you've learned to access, these are the currencies
Puro
that compound
katpon.
interest in the bank of your soul. When you track progress this way,
Tuna.
someone else's windfall no
Salmon,
longer
tuna.
feels like your deficit because you're playing an entirely different game with customized rules only you understand. This approach doesn't ignore ambition, it redefines it. Your North Star shifts from external
So yun lang,
validation to
9
internal.
lahat yun.
Decisions become clearer when filtered through, does this feel true to me? Rather than, will this impress them?
So yun
Paradoxically,
lang Abi, 9
this
parcel yun.
authenticity often leads to greater impact because people are operating from centered conviction
Tapos ito,
rather
kasali
than
to.
anxious striving. The
Yung
energy you
roses.
once spent scanning the competition now fuels your original contributions. The ones only you can make because they emerge from the intersection of your peculiar wounds, gifts, and perspectives. The most profound change comes when you realize